All right, howdy cats. I am going to show trimming the other kind of drop-in lid. So this is the drop-in lid that's much like a bowl, and I'm still attached to the bat with my form, but I'm going to center this in the lid cavity. And you know, it's going to be a little bit of adjustment here and there. This lid is actually a tiny bit large for the opening, but what I'm finding is that this is less dry than my gallery and neck here. So I believe that when it dries, it will fit perfectly. So it's going to be very snug. Anyway, I've got this pretty close to centered. And now I'm going to use, again, the standard tools to trim this. And you know, if you have specialty tools that you like, better, but because I know that everybody has the standard tools, I like to do my demos with those. So, gotta clean that off a little bit. Okay, so I'm just going to start on the top and kind of work this down. And what I like about this kind of a lid is that it really echoes the curvature of the form nicely, and if you can get a similar curve on that lid, it really fits the form nicely. It continues the curve if you have a rounded form. You know, again, this is just this one form, doing it this one way. You can also, of course, if this makes you nervous, if you spent a really long time getting that gallery just right and this makes you nervous, you can definitely trim this kind of a lid the same way that you would trim any bowl that you threw off the hump. You're just, instead of trimming a foot into it, which would kind of start here and go down, you know, to trim a foot, you're going to just trim that foot off, which hopefully you remember from Clay 1, where we had forms that we would add a foot to. You would very often just trim the foot right off, or trim all that extra clay off and then add a foot. So it's kind of that same mentality, or kind of that same ideal. All right. And then after I get it to a similar curve, I like how that looks. I'm leaning back to see if that curve matches nicely, and I think it does. I'm going to take a little bit more from here to ease that into that curve so it doesn't hesitate. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. So I'm going to get rid of all the boogers. Okay, now I'm going to take my red rib, and I'm going to go just over that surface to smooth it. Give it the same type of surface as the form. Got a little booger stuck in there. There we go. Okay. So yeah, that looks good. So now I want to put a knob on here, right? So I'm going to take my needle tool. Could also use my serrated rib, and I'm going to kind of do a little outline, just add a little circle line so that I know where that's going to be, and then I'm going to go in from there. And this is just scoring quicker than if I just did it all by hand or did it all by scratching. And now I'm going to scratch the opposite direction too, so that I've got a nice thorough scoring happening. There we go. Get the little tip. I could use my serrated rib if I had that handy. Unfortunately, I didn't bring mine to this game, so there's my needle tool. Okay, so now I'm just going to add a little bit of water, right? So I've got water and scored clay. That makes a nice enough slip. And this is at a nice kind of soft leather hard. If I have Grover slip handy, I could use that as well. But I'm just making it easy on myself. Okay, so here's a little hunk of clay that I'm just going to add to here to make a knob. I want to be sure that this is very nice homogeneous clay. I grabbed this from the reincarnation bin, but it was one of the firmer pieces from the reincarnation bin. I'm going to do a little hand wedging. So I'm just kind of squishing it between my palms as I twist. So it's kind of like a little baby spiral wedging. So just adding pressure and then twisting. Pressure and twist, pressure and twist. It's a very small piece and I'm going to be poking a hole in it, so I'm not super worried about it. But just like when I'm starting a piece on the wheel, I want to be sure that I have a nice kind of de-aired and convex curve to add. This is a convex curve. I'm going to add a convex curve, and then I'm going to push it to compress it. You know, if your lid is real thin, this isn't going to work. You're not going to want to put pressure on there. Mine is fairly firm and thick, so I'm okay with that. I'm okay with doing it this way. I could pop this off and measure my thickness going through the interior to that exterior. So if I push through with my needle tool, then as soon as it comes out the other side, then I know how much thickness I have there. So I have a good substantial 1/4 inch plus. So I'm pretty confident that it's going to hold up. Plus the dome form of that lid gives it a little extra strength too. Did I get it centered again? Yep, a little shift. There we go. There it is. Okay, so now I have this nice curved base here. Now what I don't want to do, or what I want to be careful about doing, is getting a bunch of water running down into that gallery. If water runs down into that gallery, then that will cause that lid to stick, and getting that unattached can be a real pickle. So I'm going to kind of do a little back and forth action here. Doot, doot, doot. And now I'm going to press down as I go. You can see the slip squishing as I do this. Maybe I'll do it from here so that you can really see that. You see that slip squishing out? I'm looking at the camera, hoping that you can see that. Makes a very nice, firm connection without adding a lot of water. So I'm just doing little pushes. Again, I don't want to collapse my lid by pushing too hard. So I'm just doing little pushes, little pushes. There, and you can see my little outline of scoring. So I know that I'm at the place where I started scoring and now where I discontinued scoring. Okay, so what kind of a shape do I want for this lid? Hopefully I've made some, I have put some thought to it before I get going with it, and I think what I want to do is kind of have a soft curve that kind of mimics the curve of this lid, but then maybe has this this beveled curve into it. So I'm going to curve in and then have a soft dome top so that it's a nice substantial knob that I got going on there. So I'm going to do some pinching to that effect first. Again, I don't want to have to add too much water, so I don't want that running down into that gallery, making my lid stick. So I'm going to do this with very little water and as quickly as I can. Okay, so I'm putting the water on my fingers rather than directly on the clay, so that my fingers can kind of act as the lubricant. There we go. And if I was forming this knob not on the pot, if I was just doing it off the wheel head, I wouldn't have to worry about water. So it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, as they say, how you want to approach this. All right, squeezing to kind of center a little bit better. There we go. There we go. little trimming, but am I liking that shape? Not so much. So I feel like it's too thick down here, so I'm going to get in there a little bit more. I'm going to lower the camera a little bit so you guys can see this angle differently. There we go. And I'll get this guy out of the way. There. That kind of shows it a little bit better. Yeah, so you see how it's real kind of bulky in here, and that minimizes the weight of that top. I might add a little bit more clay to this top as well, but I definitely want to thin this out. So I'm going to go in there with dampened pinkies and kind of work on that a little bit. There we go. It's kind of fun having that camera in front. I can see what I'm doing without having to look down. There we go. Yeah, that's better. A little bit off center. I'm going to shorten it a little bit. I'm going to keep all the dampness on my sponge, but just run that against it. Okay, so now I'm trying to bulk up the top of this a little bit by lowering it. It's feeling better and looking better. Yeah, I kind of like that shape. That's gonna work. Okay, so now again, because I didn't use very much water, because I didn't want to oversaturate this, it is firm enough that I can go in with the trimming tool and do a little bit of doctoring, which I want to do. So I'm going to, because you can see how kind of jankety this little outside edge is. So I'm going to rest my tool against there, rest my trimming tool. Taking that out. Then I'm going to use the smaller trimming tool, small loop tool, even that out. Look at how nice that looks now. Man, that's the money, babies. All right, smooth that. And let's just trim a little bit off this outside edge. So I'm holding really, really tight, so that the tool is only hitting where the clay is bulging out. There we go. It's nice and even. Oh yeah, I like that edge a lot better. Very nice. Flipping myself over. Okay, happy with that. Let's see, now I would use my red rib, except I don't know where it is. Oh, found it. Okay, go in there with the red rib, re-smooth that again so this surface and this surface match. This curve and this curve work nicely together. This soft round works with this soft round, maybe a little rounder. There we have a nice cohesive lid and body. Right? It's kind of like making sure that if you put on your suit or your best dress, that your hair looks nice as well, right? You don't want to have your messed up, greasy, clay-filled hair and be wearing a formal gown, right? Just doesn't work together. The parts have to be cohesive. Okay, now the last thing that I have to do is I'm gonna let it firm a little bit more, and then I'm gonna pop this, or I'm gonna cut this with a wire. Actually, I might do that just right away, because I want to trim this. If you remember when I threw this form, I threw it with a bowl interior, and then I'm gonna have the foot kind of have this kind of a curve in the foot, because this has a bowl-shaped interior, so I can trim a foot in it. So that foot will come into about this dimension and then have that kind of curve to it. So one more video will follow. Thanks, guys. See you later. Bye-bye.